Welcome to Edna's Bead House. Today we're making an elasticated bracelet, and I have some freshwater pearls here, a crystal rondelle, some elasticated thread, and the only tools that you'll need are scissors, tape measure and super glue. So first you need to measure your wrist size. Mine is 6.5 inches, 16.5 centimetres. So then we need to cut out the thread that we need. Now this thread does come in different sizes, so it's important first of all to just actually check that the size of thread that you have, this is 0.5 millimetre, will actually go through. It can be a little fiddly, but it will actually go through the size of the bead hole, particularly freshwater pearls, as their hole size is usually much smaller. Now before you do cut it, I always think it's best to just give it a couple of stretches, because eventually it will loosen off on your wrist and it might be too big if you haven't actually just pre-stretched it. So if we're going to go for 6.5 inches, and then I would normally add another few inches, and just so you've got room to knot. So 12 inches should be enough.
Right.
So before we thread our beads, we need to make sure that they're not going to fall off. So you can either use an old bead and just tie it on as a stopper, or if you have some of these clips, bead stoppers, just put one of those on the end and it will stop your beads falling away. As many beads as you want to start with on, so you can, until you get to the length that you need. So we've got most of our beads on, and we'll just check the size now. See, which I won't need all of these. As I say, my wrist is about 6.5 inches, we said. So we'll just try that loosely around, because you want some space. You don't want it very, very tight. I think we can take one bead off there. And perhaps one more. So you don't want it tight, but equally you don't want it too loose. So now we've got all the beads on there, we can put the crystal rondelle on. Now because this does have quite a large hole, we can put it on the end here so that our knot will go inside. If you were using a decorative bead in the middle that did not have a large hole, then what you would need to do is line up your beads to measure the size of them and roughly how many you need. And when you've put half of them on, you'd put your rondelle on, and then you'd put the rest of your beads on, so that any knot you would make would be at the back, because it won't disappear underneath the bead hole. So now we can take our bead stopper off and just be careful on these. So we'll do 3 knots and just pull it a little bit and keep some tension on them with your fingers so it doesn't spring back. The second knot. And a third knot. And then just pull them so that the knot tightens up. Now, the best glue I find is the super glue. Different people will use different ones, their preference, but this dries very, very quickly in around 30 seconds. So all you need is one tiny dot on there and on the underside as well. And then just leave it for a few seconds so it actually dries. And then we'll trim those thread ends away because it's dry. So then we can put the knot in